Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to take you through the build of what I'm calling my Stout Quad mini album. This is a little chunky guy and I love a chunky mini. This is complete with a ribbon closure. And let me take you through why it's called the Quad album. So I have it set up so it opens up like this. Whoop. And then you have 4 sections, and each section is an accordion. So each of these sections will hold 9 photos. Wait, that's not right. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Yes, it is. And you can see I used this paper pad from Michaels. I think it was last year, but maybe the year before. I really just love the color, and then it has these little splashes of the foil. So I'm going to take you through how to make the base, so the cover, and then these fold out pages. Most of you know how to mat a page, so I'll just give you the dimensions for each of the mats. And let's see here. I've got a 1/4 inch gusset here, an inch gusset here, and an inch and a 1/4 gusset, or inch and a half, I think, gusset here. So I went ahead and used a ribbon closure just because a magnet closure in an album with 4 sections is a lot of magnets. Here's just a view from the back. I just used some of the cut aparts, and this is actually just some sections of the actual paper pad with the little houses on it. And then I tied the front of each of these sections together by putting a foil section on top. So you can see that those have the little foils, but of course, just depending on whatever paper pad you have that you're using, you can do whatever you like. And you could also just do an alternating color for each of these, and not use designer paper for this one. So I also went ahead and put a piece of that foiled paper on the top. I notice now that the seam is uneven, the cut is uneven, and it's driving me crazy, but you just cut yours straight, it'll be fine. All right. So to get started, you need a scoreboard that is still filthy with glue and glitter and all of the things. And then we are going to make our cover in a different color than our pages. So that's all you have to keep in mind when you are figuring the what to cut in what color. For the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to do the cover in black just like I have it here, and do the pages in white just like I have it here. We're going to start with 2 pieces of black cardstock. If you're using 8.5 by 11, you have to use 2 pieces for this. I have one that is 4.5 by 11. I have another that is 4.5 by 10.5. Okay, I'm just going to take my scoring tool. I'm going to score this at 1. At 5.5. Oops. Jumped the track there. And 6. So again, this is the sheet that's 4.5 by 10.5, and I scored at 1 inch, 5.5, and 6. And then we're going to take our 4.5 by 11 and we're going to score at 4 1/2, 6, and 10 1/2. Oop. And before we burnish our score lines, before we fold and burnish them, we're going to go ahead and create one long piece of paper. On your page that is 4.5 by 11, you have this 1.5 inch little section that you scored. So we're going to take that 1/2 inch section and then we're going to lay it on the 1 inch section of our 4.5 by 10.5 piece. And basically we are going to just use our score lines as our guide. And you can do this on top or the bottom, it doesn't really matter. But you just want to glue it into this score line. So essentially you will have then a 1 inch section. So we're just using this 1/2 inch section as the tab to glue. And we're just going to glue it and cover it like that. I hope that makes sense. It is just a little easier to do this part when it's not folded, but if you folded it, that's just fine. It'll work out just the same. And you don't want to really cover up that score line. You want it just to the side of that score line. Let's see how that looks. I don't know if you can tell, you probably can't tell, but that you can still see the score line there. So I didn't cover it up with the paper. My paper is butted up against it. And now we are going to fold and burnish all of our score lines. Depending on the glue that you're using or adhesive, you might need to wait a minute for it to dry. And here we have that 1 inch section. So you can see that that's how I glued it. So I'm just going to fold it over like this and like this. So you have a spine that has that seam just right through the middle of it. So here we have the makings of our book. See, we have the 1/2 inch section on the right, folds into the 1 inch section, and then into the 1.5 inch section. The first thing that you want to do now, if you are going to use the ribbon closure, is go ahead and mark where your ribbon is going to go. So marking where your ribbon is going to be important, not just to remember where your ribbon is, but you want to be able to hide your marks. So you can see here that I didn't put anything, I didn't mat this section where the ribbon comes inside the book. But I did mark it on this side, and I knew I was going to cover up this side anyway. So just be mindful of where you're going to put your marks, whether it's inside or outside, and how you're going to cover those up. If you're good at eyeballing or you want to get a ruler now, you can just mark where you're going to punch your holes. If you have the We Are Memory Keepers punch, this one, I just used the entirety of this section, so I pulled the guide all the way back and just punched holes. Let's see. So what I'm going to do, just so I don't have to worry about covering them up, is I'm just going to put marks here and here. And I'm sure that you probably can't see that, but this is just a old gel pen. And the reason that I've done this is because, I don't know if you can see that, but what that's doing is reminding me that I have this entire section here where I made a channel underneath this piece for the ribbon. And so you can see that the ribbon kind of will move underneath there, because when I glued, I just created kind of a channel in between. And this will remind me to do that also before I mat it, or when I glue it down, or glue the page down. Sorry, that was a lot. So I have marked where my things are gonna go. You might want to mark on this side too, because sometimes we cut paper and we just start gluing, right? What I ended up doing is punching holes here essentially, and I forgot that I was going to mat it, so I matted it afterwards, and then the holes don't exactly line up, but I kind of wanted to show that as part of this video, to mat then punch if at all possible. But if you don't, you can always fix it and it'll look like that. It'll be okay. Okay. So now we have section marked where we're going to put our ribbon. And this ribbon is, I think, 3 foot of ribbon or so. Yeah, it's like 36 inches of ribbon. And let me grab that. Part of the ribbon idea is you're going to have a big bow on the front when this is closed. So what you don't want to do is put something on the top that is going to that's going to be covered up. So what I had done originally, let's see, don't know how to use a ribbon. What I had done originally is I had, I had put this 'Tis the Season paper, and not only does it not match perfectly, but then once I did the bow, you couldn't really read it. So that's when I decided to take this piece and put it on top. And luckily I used the removable adhesive. That is the glory of removable adhesive. Of course, it's not great for everything, but especially when you're card making and if you are putting things down and not sure where you want them to go, but you want to fuss with them and you want them to kind of stay in place. I use the AdTech removable tape, and so it is just like a tape runner, except that you can, as you see, you can easily be pulled up and repositioned and all that kind of good stuff. Adhesive runner and adhesive removable or repositionable glue dots are really great for things like that. When I make a project, usually a card that has like an ornament or something that you can take off on the front of it, I use removable glue dots for that. So back to our regularly scheduled program. We have our cover. Now we're going to make our pages, and the pages are all the same. Okay, for our pages in an alternating color, we are going to need 8 pieces of cardstock that are 4 1/4 by 11. So basically these are 4 pieces of 8 1/2 by 11, just cut down the middle. Each one of these has the same score marks. So essentially we are making little squares that are 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. So we're going to take our scoring tool and score each of these at 4 1/4 and 8 1/2. Okay, next what we're going to do is we are going to miter the section, kind of the leftover section, that's our tab. So I have a 4 1/2 or 4 1/4 square, a 4 1/4 square, and then this section we're going to miter on each page. Now you can go ahead and chop these off if you want a smaller section, but this is going to be covered anyway. So I'm just mitering, just making sure to not cut the score line or the channel that we made when we scored, just to cut right above that and just kind of bring it in a little bit. And even though this is going to be covered up, that was driving me crazy. So, but in our completed book, I didn't even cut them shorter. I just used the whole tab section because, like I said, they are going to be covered up. So I'm just going to do this real quick. Okay, in addition to our pages, we are going to need 4 squares of cardstock that are 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. So let's put things together here. I'm going to go ahead and start in this section where I'm going to put the ribbon, just so I know that it's done. If you want to cover these sections, this section, you would need a piece of cardstock. I use Designer Series cardstock. That is 4 1/4 by 1 1/4. For here, you need something that's 4 1/4 by 3/4. And then here, you just need 1 1/4 by 3/8. But if you don't like 3/8, you just cut it a little shorter than 1/2. And so, but to do this ribbon part right now, you only need to cover these two because you're going to go ahead and punch. So let me show you just so you can see. So I took like I said, the hole punch, put the guide all the way back, and I just kind of centered it here. Pulled it all the way back and punched, and so I'm going to do the same thing here. Kind of even it up on the sides and punch. So what that's going to do is remind me. Now these pages are just glue the tab and again, you want it to butt up right against that score mark, but not cover it up, not on top of it. And you kind of want to take your time. If you have, you know, a work surface that has lines, kind of use that. So you have a guide across the bottom. And so now we have one page. And it is going to go like this. So you may have to refold your pages. You can re-burnish them if you like. And now we have our tab. Now let me show you how you put one down. So you are just going to decide what side you're going to have your accordions fold from. Now I did it on the right side just because I liked the way that it pulled, but you can do it either way. I gathered mine up all folded and laid this down because essentially you want the tiniest bit of the cover to show around all of the sides. These essentially are 4.5 inch squares. These are 4 1/4 squares. So you should have 1/8 of an inch on each side and across the top and bottom. And just score that or burnish that a little bit. And then that's where these guys come in. You are going to cover this flap with a square of your 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 cardstock. If you kind of slide that into that groove there, you should still have that little mat 1/8 of an inch all the way around. Glue it down, and there you have your page. So the two right-hand sections are done the same way that you do this one. So you just glue the tab down and glue your sheet, your little square sheet, to cover up that tab and make a nice mat. For this section, we're going to do it a little different because we want our ribbon closure to go through. So since we're going to go ahead and pull our ribbon closure through now, the gluing part kind of makes a little more sense. So you do want to fuss with your ribbon just a little bit. You kind of want it even, and you want it flat across this section. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to glue my tab, but I'm going to glue my tab so that it leaves a section for that ribbon to kind of slide through. So you can definitely eyeball it here if you want to be super precise, but what I did is I left a pretty big channel and I just put a lot of glue on the top and the bottom section. Here I have it on this left-hand side just so I can see that ribbon as the guide. And then I'm going to go in and just like my other pages, I'm going to set that down, and your ribbon should be in that area where you did not put glue. Now we do the same thing for our mat piece. This is our square. We are going to just put a whole bunch of glue here and a whole bunch of glue here. And you can definitely kind of lay it here to see, to make sure you got it correct. Is that right? Yeah. And then you flip it over into your little groove. Line it up at the top and bottom and just kind of slide it in to that fold. There you go. So now your ribbon moves. Let's see that your ribbon can move in and out. I guess we should let this glue first. Sorry about that. So those are your pages. Okay, now that all of our pages are in place, just close it up this way. So what I did on my completed book is for these sections on the cover that aren't these square sections, I went ahead and just put a white piece of cardstock that is 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. So that just gave me my starting mat for each of these pages. And then I was able to cut 4-inch squares of the designer cardstock. So of course this one started with a designer cardstock paper pad that had 4x4 cut aparts. So that's really how I started designing it, even though I think I only used 1 or 2 in the final project. So now, once you get your mat on the front covers, the back cover, and then you also need it on these 2 sections. Now you just need to cover your pages. So if you're going to cover your pages, what I did when I did this one, I don't know why I tied it up and then I went back to it. When I covered my pages, I just went through, I figured that I need 9 squares for each one of these pages. So you have 2, 4, 6, 8, and then 9. And then you have 4 of those. So that's 36. And then if you want to cover the mats on the front with your fancy paper, then you need 4 more. So essentially you just need 40 squares of 4x4 cardstock. If you're using 12x12, it's pretty easy. I used more than, oh, here's where all the cut aparts went. So essentially you could do this off of, so you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. You could use 5 sheets of 12x12, but I went ahead and just cut a strip off of each one of the pages that was a different design in the collection I was using. And I just cut them without worrying where they were going to go or how I was going to layer them, or you know what sits next to what. And all of that I figured out after I cut my little squares. I had decided that I was going to put the foil ones on the front here of each section, and you could decide you want cut aparts on the front, but then I just went ahead and did that corresponding with the foil ones. And then I just went to town kind of gluing things in. And for the most part, they just went where they went. There was less of the foil paper, so I think I only have 1 piece of foil paper inside each accordion. So there's one. But you just kind of mix and match and do you. And then by the time you have them all glued in, you're done. You could definitely, you know, use some stickers or some chipboard accents or rub-ons, whatever you have. There is plenty of room to grow in this book. I do think that if someone fills every single square with a photo, then it'll be just kind of, it'll fill itself out really well. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this little book. I'm sorry that I was rushed today. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to comment or reach out to me. My contact information is in the description box below. I also now have a, you can leave me a tip at my Buy Me a Coffee. That's linked in the description box as well. I am always available for questions or if you have ideas. Don't forget that liking and commenting and subscribing all help my channel grow and help get my mini album tutorials out to other mini album makers. Thank you so much. Have a great day.